Hey everyone, it's Bob Perkins coming back with special guest David Kreiger. David, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Bob. How you doing?
I'm doing good. David is the founder and president of SalesRoads, an outsourcing company. He was here on a previous video. Maybe you saw that and you're coming back for this one, talking about working remotely. The previous video was geared towards leaders. This is going to be geared towards reps. David's his company has been around for coming up on 13 years, and you were founded as a remote work from home company. And now look what's happening. There's a lot of people out there coming out of the woodwork. Oh, let me tell you how to work remotely. And here's all these best practices. It seems like everybody's experts, but you and your team have been doing it for 13 years. So I know we can learn a lot. So what are you going to talk to the viewers about on this episode?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it is for individuals who haven't been working from home and haven't been working remotely. It is a new reality,
Yes.
and obviously during a stressful time, trying to balance a new work environment with a new economic environment and whatnot. So it is an interesting time. But I think people and reps who approach this in the right way will find that remote work is an amazing blessing. And there's so many things that are going to allow them to do more with each of their days. But there are things that they need to do in order to make that a reality. And one of the things first and foremost, and actually I wanted to talk to my team before this just to make sure, that I was getting feedback from the folks who are doing this every day. And one thing that came up time and time again is creating boundaries. And this is a two-way street. One is you now have a home office, right? And you have kids, or you have spouses or friends or whatever,
or cats or dogs,
or cats or dogs. This might be a little harder, but we can train them as well. But but you need to communicate to all of them that you're actually working from home, right? This is not like, that you're just hanging out and you're doing a little bit, that this is the times that you're working, and you might take certain breaks and you're going to close the door. Hopefully you have a door, that you can, but even if you don't, these are the times that you're working, and it's clear to have that upfront communication with everyone in your house that this is really work. It's just we're having to do this because this is what's going on in the country right now. Yeah. And if you create that clear communication, you're creating a boundary that's going to allow you to really focus at home and be very productive in that home environment.
That's a really good first tip. And I also like how you said, hey, I get breaks, but it's like a break at work, right? I need to go read or go out and pick up lunch or whatever.
And I'd even encourage your spouse or whoever, I get to instead of coming in the door, text them, text you or call you, just like you're at work. As much as you can make it like a work environment, I think it's really key to put you in that mindset and put everyone else in that mindset.
I'm in a home office here. In fact, I could point my camera. My door to the home office is out there. It's separate from the home. And my wife and I often text. If she has to come up and see me, she'll look, and if I'm busy or whatever, she'll turn around and text me. So good point.
Perfect. Yeah. So that communication key. So that's boundaries number one. The other boundary, which is really important, is boundaries for yourself. So people who do work from home, they sometimes struggle with the balances to when does work stop, right? And when does it begin? And I do think it's really important. I think that because you don't have the commute now, you actually have potentially more working time or more personal time, but make sure that you know when you're working, right? And plan out your day. And this is when I'm starting and when I'm ending. Otherwise, it can blend together, especially during this stressful time, Bob, when there's so many other stressors going on. I think it's really important to have that separation, and even, for people who are homeschooling and things like that, have that separation that, from 2 to 4 or whatever it is, I'm going to do some work with my kids and then come back to work, but plan it out. Don't make it fluid.
Yeah, good. It's so easy for, back when I lived in Minnesota, a lot of times I'd get up and before I even showered, I'd be in my pajamas, right? And I'd start working. And we had a guest on the Monday Morning Sales Minute just yesterday. And he said, pretend like you're actually getting up, do your exercise, shower, get into your work clothes, and as if you were going out the door to your job.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I think, and it's that mindset. And to this point, and again, the next thing I'm going to say is, I think a good best practice, even in an office, but I think it's even more important in a remote work as you're trying to create those boundaries, is if you have some form of planner. There's some great ones out there specifically for sales. I have a best self one, where I basically write down every single day, even though I have my virtual Google Calendar, what my day is like. what my 3 goals are, what's my number 1 goal. If I only got one thing done today, what was it going to be?
Right.
And make sure you've planned your day around that, because at home things, you can, there's more things where you could potentially slack off and things like that. So if you are disciplined around that, I think you're going to find your productivity is going to go through the roof working at home.
That's a really good tip. Do you have a third and final one here?
I do. Lastly is, I think that some of us, especially in sales, we do need that social interaction, right? And we might miss it when we are working remotely.
Sure.
And I would say embrace that. And this is really also for managers to allow people to call their friend or the person who is sitting in the cubicle next to them, and just say, how are things going? How are things going with your family? Have a little conversation. Make sure that you do take time for some of those social interactions that you're not getting in a remote environment. And if you don't allow for that, you don't have that outlet that you did have in your office setting.
That's a great tip, especially with the advent of simple video like we're doing right here. It's so easy to click and, your colleague at work appears, hey, how was it? You told me you went to this event over the weekend. Tell me about it, right? That little social interaction. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So really good tips there. How many remote workers do you have?
We have 65 right now.
Wow, 65, and they're all from home. And you've been doing it for a long time. Is there anyone that just struggles with it that isn't a good fit for it?
I think to some degree, and this is something some folks don't have the benefit of, it's selected for because we are remote. They know they're applying for jobs and they're remote, but we have had a lot of people who worked in centralized environments. So it was first time and they just loved it when they realized the freedom it gave them. As long as they got to still have some of that social interaction, so, some of the culture of the company. And I think people are going to really find that it's a wonderful way of doing work.
That's great. Well, look, David, thanks so much for coming on. It was great seeing you a month or so ago at the executive retreat down in Florida.
Yes.
And we got to get to know you a little bit and about your business. And thanks so much for sharing these ideas. 13 years coming up on this entire 65-person remote working. So come on back again and let's revisit this in a couple months, see where we are.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Bob. Good talking.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the week selling and stay safe. Bye-bye.